All right, family, if we don't teach the next generation about God's faithfulness, who's going to do it? Good question, right? Well, Psalm 78 is a massive call to parents, grandparents, church family, mentors to tell the coming generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord. It's like a spiritual legacy reminder. I'm Rachel here, and we are going to continue our journey through the book of Psalms together. And today we're reading Psalm 78, verses 1 through 34. You ready? Let's get started. All right, so the first half of Psalm 78 is not simply recounting Israel's past, it is intentionally retelling about the wilderness generation's repeated rebellion against Exodus, the ones that did not make it into the promised land. The psalmist highlights how God performed visible miracles, like providing manna and water from the rock, yet the people continued testing him. That's a problem. Let's go ahead and read what happened here in Psalm 78, verses 1 through 34 together. O my people, listen to my instructions. Open your ears to what I am saying, for I will speak to you in parables. I will teach you hidden lessons from our past, stories we have heard about and known, stories our ancestors handed down to us. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. For he issued his laws to Jacob. He gave his instructions to Israel. He commanded our ancestors to teach them to the children, so the next generation might know them, even the children not yet born, and they in turn will teach their children. So each generation should set its hopes anew on God, not forgetting his glorious miracles and obeying his commands. Then you will not be like their ancestors, stubborn, rebellious, and unfaithful, refusing to give their hearts to God. The warriors of Ephraim, though armed with bows, turned their backs and fled on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant and refused to live by his instructions. They forgot what he had done, the great wonders he had shown them, the miracles he did for their ancestors in the plain of Zoan in the land of Egypt. For he divided the sea and led them through, making the water stand up like walls. In the daytime he led them by a cloud, and all night by a pillar of fire. He split open the rocks in the wilderness. He gave them water as from gushing spring. He made streams pour from the rock, making the waters flow down the river. Yet they kept on sinning against him, rebelling against the Most High in the desert. They stubbornly tested God in their hearts, demanding the foods they craved. They even spoke against God himself, saying, God can't give us food in the wilderness. Yes, he can strike a rock so water gushes out, but he can't give his people bread and meat. When the Lord heard them, he was furious. The fire of his wrath burned against Jacob. Yes, his anger rose against Israel, for they did not believe God or trust him to care for them. But he commanded the skies to open. He opened the doors of heaven. He rained down manna for them to eat. He gave them bread from heaven. They ate the food of angels. God gave them all they could hold. He released the east wind in the heavens and guided the south wind by his mighty power. He rained down meat as thick as dust, birds as plentiful as the sand on the seashore. He caused the birds to fall within their camp and all around their tents. The people ate their fill. He gave them what they craved. But before they satisfied their craving, while the meat was yet in their mouths, the anger of God rose against them, and he killed their strongest men. He struck down the finest of Israel's young men. But in spite of this, the people kept sinning. Despite his wonders, they refused to trust him. He ended their lives in failure, their years in terror. When God began killing them, they finally sought him. They repented and took God seriously. I don't know about you, but when I read this, it reminds me of how often we can see the work of God in our lives, see his hand moving in different areas, and yet and still find ourselves in a place where we're not trusting him, where we're not believing in his faithfulness, where we're not believing that he's going to come through. And it seemed that the Israelites were much like many of us in difficult times when uncertainty is around us, and they were wondering, where is God? But here's the thing. He revealed himself, and he had shown his faithfulness to them, his power to them so many times that all they simply had to do was to trust him. That's all he wanted from them. To trust him. That's all he wants from us. So I want to remind us all the way back to the beginning of what this psalm is about. Let's look at verse 4. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. I believe that this is something that was not just a suggestion, but it was a command and a conviction. We ought to be convicted to tell the next generation about Jesus. Time here is so short, and if we don't talk about him, if we are not convicted to convince other people and to talk to other people about God, who's going to do it? We are responsible for the message of the gospel being passed on to the next generation. We have a responsibility and an obligation to do it, and this right here is our reminder. Now, I definitely want to go back to verse 34 because verse 34 does what many of us need to be reminded of, to have a fear of the Lord. And I believe that all they walked through after experiencing God, this is what was really needed, a fear of the Lord. Verse 34 says, when God began killing them, they finally sought him. They repented and took God seriously. We never wanted to come to that place where we have to experience the wrath of God in order for us to take him seriously. Recognize that these were believers. These were people who had seen the work of God, the hand of God, and the move of God. These were not people who were unbelievers, who were rejecting God, serving other idols. These were people who had actually experienced him, and yet and still it took him killing them off in order for them to take him seriously. Y'all, we don't want to be like that. We want to take God seriously because we know who he is. We know the power that he has. We see him as our father, but we also see him as a just judge, as our defender, but we also recognize that he is the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. We don't ever want to discount him or bring him down to our level. We always want to rise up to his standard of living, his standard of holiness. And we want to have a fear of the Lord that says, you know what, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust you because you are God, you are ruler, and you are over all things, including this situation. I trust you. And sometimes that takes some work, some prayer, some encouragement. But y'all, let's not be like the Israelites and forget who God is and what he has done. We are to pass it on to the next generation. All right, now it's time for our daily seed. In Israel's theology, the wilderness period became the defining example of how easily God's people, like us, can witness divine provision and still struggle with trusting the Lord. This history was retold to later generations as a warning. Deuteronomy repeatedly commands Israel to remember these failures so they would not repeat them when they eventually lived in comfort and stability in their own lands. This psalm also shows us a pattern that we might not recognize or notice right away. Crisis, complaint, divine provision, temporary repentance, renewed rebellion. This cycle helps explain why later prophets interpreted national disasters as spiritual consequences rooted in long-standing patterns of unbelief. Psalm 78, 1-34 teaches us that spiritual memory is meant to form obedience. Knowing God's past faithfulness should shape present trust in God, not just inspire nostalgia or just random experience. We should be formed by those experiences to know God better, to trust him more, and to walk out our faith so that we can tell others about him. Listen, I know your days are nonstop, and sometimes your faith just feels tested. You want a real relationship with God, but you need a space where you can actually ask questions and get those answers that you've been pursuing. Well, inside our Deeper Roots community, we provide the tools like context checks, exclusive podcasts, short audio teachings, resources to help you stay consistent even when life is kind of chaotic. So it's time for you to go from just reading the word to truly living it. Join me at wordandseed.com/community and get rooted. So you know what you need to do now. Go ahead, grab your Summer in the Psalm journal, read it in the translation that's provided to you in that journal, then write it with your own handwriting in a different translation. Listen to it using the YouVersion Bible plan that I've created for you. And I want you to spend the next 15-20 minutes just meditating on what you learned today. I want you to take this with you throughout the day because time with God is time you will never regret spending. I will see you in Psalm 78 verses 35-72.